Listen, I'm due for a declutter. I've been complaining lately that I cannot fit any more into my drawers that I keep my makeup in, and I'm not about to go out and spend $200 and something on another set of Alex drawers from IKEA. So I was in the mode. Like, have you ever been in the cleaning mode? Like when you start and you just can't stop? Listen, it's the best thing ever. So I was just in the zone of like going through my drawers, pulling stuff out, and seeing if I wanted to declutter them just to create some more room in my drawers. Usually in December at the end of the year, I film a big palette declutter, but I kind of knew I wasn't going to declutter a ton of stuff. So I thought I would just do it on my own and then show you what I decluttered, the palettes I'm decluttering and why. And then at the end of the year, I am gonna do a palette collection video going through my entire collection of palettes, which is a lot, and show you what I've got. Hello and welcome if you are new here. My name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. Let me show you what I'm getting out of my collection. First off, this shouldn't be a surprise to you if you've been here before, but I am going to declutter these palettes from Ace Beauté. This is the floral collection. By the way, if there are palettes here that are not old or expired, like these I just bought at the beginning of the year, I'm gonna pass them off to family and friends. I have people around me that would probably really love these. I'll tell you why I don't personally like them. The mattes in these are just way too hard pressed in the pan. I don't know if I got a bad batch, like I've said before, because I don't feel like too many people have that same opinion as me, but the mattes are just very, very, very lightly pigmented to the point where I really have to sit and build them and build them and build them. But I think my sister-in-laws will really like these because they don't wear a lot of makeup. They like a light wash of color. They like easy to use type of palettes. Like they're fans of Too Faced, Urban Decay. And so I feel like they're actually going to like these palettes. But for me, I just like more pigment. I don't even need an ultra pigmented shadow, but these were just way, way, way too sheer in terms of the mattes for me. The metallics in all of these are really, really pretty, like really sparkly, really shiny, but I don't see myself reaching for these, and I feel like I have people in my life that would enjoy them so much more. And by the way, as I'm going through these, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, did anybody else have that experience, or did you pick up those palettes and you absolutely love them? I would really love to know. This is all just based on my own opinion, of course. All right, recently on my channel, I did talk about this palette, which is the Dream Street palette from ColourPop and Kathleen Lights. Used to be one of my go-to palettes, an absolutely gorgeous neutral palette with a couple of pops. I think it's beautiful, but this is way expired to the point where like I don't really feel comfortable putting this on my eyes, so I am just gonna throw this out. I mean, when did this come out? 2017, 2018? It's time. And I know some of you commented saying you still have this palette and you still use it and you still like it. That's great, but just for me, I have so many palettes in my collection that like I'm not gonna reach for this. So it is gonna go. I do love this palette. It gives me good memories, and I've kept it this long in my collection more for the memory's sake. But no, it's time to go. I have two more ColourPop palettes to talk about. I have a lot of ColourPop palettes. I have a really hard time parting with a lot of them, but these are the three that like, I know I'm not gonna reach for. So the next one is the Sweet Talk palette. This used to be one of my favorites, but again, it's so old. I really don't feel comfortable using this. Maybe at some point I'll pick it up again. I also depotted the pressed glitter that was in here. I didn't like it. And I just feel like ColourPop's quality has gotten better, over the years. I really love this corally pink color story. It is really pretty. And again, when I first got it, I thought it was absolutely gorgeous and I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite like ColourPop color stories that I've seen, but it's old, like it's crumbly. You can look at these shimmers and they're just crumbling. I don't want no crumbly shimmers, so it's going. And then the other one that I'm kind of hesitant to get rid of, but I'm just not gonna reach for this. This is the Budoir Noir. I did actually depot, I think there were 2 pressed glitters in here, maybe just one, and I popped in a couple other shades from other palettes. I'm looking at this and I'm like, should I get rid of it? Yes, it is really pretty though, isn't it?
Stop it. Get some help.
I've had this forever. I've not really used it more than maybe 2 or 3 times. I'm not gonna use it. I'm not going to use it. It's gonna go. One that I picked up earlier this year, which I actually don't think it's a bad palette at all whatsoever, but once again, like, I'm just not going to reach for it. This is the Joa Beauty Escapade palette in the colorway Amazonian. It is just this little tiny 6-pan palette. I just don't like drugstore packaging like this where it's like a plastic cover, you have to reach in with your finger. I don't really see myself reaching for this, partially because of the packaging. And then I actually really like the color story. I thought the quality of the shadows was pretty good. I mean, I just have so many more mini palettes that are neutral that I would be reaching for way over this one, like my Natasha Denona minis, I'd be reaching for over this one. My ColourPop quads, I'd be reaching for over this one. So again, I think one of my sister-in-laws or even my niece would really enjoy this because the shadows are just buildable. The mattes aren't overly pigmented. You can build them up. They're easy to use. The shimmers are pretty standard shimmers, a little bit softer, but very pretty neutral palette. I just don't need it. Okay, this one I've talked about recently on my channel a couple of times. This is the Wet n Wild In Love with Cocoa palette. This is expired because I was boasting about it in a palette video recently saying like, oh, I think this is a gorgeous palette. The metallics are like super shiny, like super wet. And then you go to touch them and they're literally crumbling. Like there is no more moisture left. Where are they? There's just no more moisture left in these shimmers and the mattes are just fine. But again, it's a cute neutral palette, but I've got so many other neutral palettes that I would reach for over this one. It's just not one that I really need to keep. And it's, like I said, for sure expired. And I hate Wet n Wild's packaging. It makes me livid. Especially if I've just done my nails to get my nails in there, absolutely not. A lot of these are neutral palettes, which I think is so funny, but again, it's because when I bought these palettes, I really was wearing exclusively neutrals. They're just ready for retirement. They're ready for the makeup graveyard. And one of those is this Makeup by Mario quad. I actually love this quad, but I'm not gonna use it. This one, I don't know that it's expired. I might try to pass this on to one of my friends or family members, but I actually think this is gorgeous. It's got one matte shade and 3 really beautiful shimmers. Let me touch them. No, they're dry. This has gotta go. But actually really pretty. They still actually look nice, but I don't know. Maybe not the most hygienic thing to pass it on. I got some really beautiful looks out of this little quad. I think the packaging is really nice with that magnetic closure. The shades all go together really nicely. I really enjoyed this while I had it, but I haven't reached for it in such a long time. And kind of the same thing I said about the Joa. There are just so many other quads or mini palettes I'd be reaching for before this one. But I thought the quality of the shadows was really good and it was just a nice little mini palette. This one is one that like, it's not expired and honestly, I haven't used it that much, but I just don't use it. I don't reach for it. This is the KKW eyeshadow palette in Classic. One of the shades is broken, so I have to be careful holding it up. And actually another shimmer over here looks like it's about to fall out. But this is a really pretty neutral palette. It only has 3 shimmers and the rest are mattes. I thought the quality of the shadows was really good. Again, a little bit more on the buildable side in terms of the mattes. Not overly pigmented, but easy for a beginner. And the shimmers are really pretty. I like that there's one light one for the inner corner and you've got 2 more mid-tone shimmers. And the shimmers are really pretty standard metallics. It's a really good palette, but obviously the other reason I'm getting rid of this is this brand no longer exists. So it's not like I can use it for reference purposes or anything like that on my channel. It's just, it has ceased to exist. So it's going to cease to exist in my collection. It's a good palette though. It pains me to say goodbye to this next palette because I do love it, but you're getting the theme here of like, I don't reach for it and it's expired. This is the Urban Decay Naked Honey. I love this palette. It is one of my favorite neutral palettes in my collection. I just think the undertones, like the mustardy undertones, are so beautiful. And I don't know if I have a palette in my collection that gives the same vibe with these same like yellowy, mustardy, honey undertones. It is a possibility I may like repurchase this in the future if, you know, if it goes on super sale, but I've had this for years and years and years. I never reach for it, but it is a gorgeous palette. I do really like it. It is really pretty, but it's time to say goodbye. This is a palette from an indie brand that I actually tried for the first time last year, and this is the Ollie's Lash Zone palette from Ollie's Lashes. They are primarily a lash brand. They're a really small indie brand, and it is like Twilight Zone themed here. And then on the inside, this is what the palette looks like. I thought the shimmers in this were really nice, like super metallic, super wet. Some of them are actually like shifty shades, but then you've got some more like standard metallics. So I do like the variety of tones, but the mattes in this are just not good. Like in my opinion, I really didn't like the mattes. And I am a matte girl. Like, I need the mattes in my palettes to really work well, or I just won't reach for the palette, you know? I just really didn't enjoy the mattes in this, so I don't really need to keep it around in my collection. This palette, again, I've had it for such a long time. It is time to retire it. But this is the LA Girl Hey Hey Vacay. Actually, it's not called Hey Hey Vacay. It's called Under the Palms. Like, the name of the palette is on the barcode, so love that. This palette, honestly, is very good. It's a very, very good drugstore palette, and I actually think it's good not only for the price, just good in general. The mattes are a little bit more on the buildable side, but you can build them up, and the shimmers in this are really pretty. I don't love how repetitive this is. Like, these two browns, they're exactly the same, and certainly on the lid, they're gonna look the same. These three green olive tones for the shimmers look pretty darn similar on the eyes. These two oranges look pretty darn similar on the eyes. I mean, a lot of the shades are very, very close to the point where it's like, did we really need them? No, we didn't. I actually really enjoy this palette, but I've just had it for so long. It's time for it to go. The packaging is a little bit bulky and it's plastic, so I don't love the packaging, but I did enjoy this one while I had it. And then I have one more palette, and this is the big finale because I can't believe I'm getting rid of this palette. I've had this palette for many years and I've kept it around for nostalgia's sake. Pause the video right now and take a guess if you have a guess what it could be. This is the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe. I have such fond memories of this. I really kept it around for nostalgia. I haven't used it in many years, but I remember getting my hands on this and just being so freaking excited to have my hands on it. I remember when it first launched, I was in a shuttle on my way to the airport, and this was back in whatever, 2018? Maybe 2017? And my cell phone didn't have good service, so I was on the phone with my ex, who was my boyfriend at the time, and just making him be on his computer and on his phone at the same time to try to wait in line to get this palette. I mean, it was a big freaking deal. If you were there, you know. And leave a comment down below letting me know if you also still have this palette, or if you bought it and you decluttered it, let me know. I thought this was a great palette. For the time, it was really good, actually. Like I said, I haven't used it in a really long time, so I don't know how much the formula stands up, but I'm not gonna reach for this. I'm just not. It is not a palette in my collection that I ever think about reaching for, and because it's so big, I kind of store it underneath a bunch of palettes, so I hardly ever see it. I hardly even know it's there. So it is time for it. It's time for it to go. All right, and that is it for this declutter video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, there's not a huge amount of palettes that I wanted to declutter from my collection. I went through every single palette, and these were the only ones that I could bear to part with. So I thought like doing a whole big declutter video just to declutter this many palettes would have been kind of anticlimactic, but don't you worry, I will be doing a palette collection video come December. You better believe it. And that's gonna be a long one, so you better have like your breakfast and your lunch prepared so that you can eat both meals during it. But anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these palettes. Do you still own any of these palettes? Did you declutter them from your collection? Did you skip out on them and you're having a little FOMO? I would love to know your thoughts because I always love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, and I'd love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.